Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are on a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Sitting Ringside on ad-free shows. My name is David Penzer. So happy to be here doing this thing we call a podcast. And we have a great guest this week. We had to move a couple things around for organizational reasons. For those who were tuning in expecting Aubrey Edwards from AEW, she will be either next week or the week after. But we had to make some moves. And so I've always wanted to have one of the Nitro Girls on to tell this story of instant fame and fortune and success and something like that. There's a word out there, and I'm 55, and that escapes me. So when you're 55, you'll understand. Notoriety, that's what it is. So Nitro Girl Spice is going to jump on in what is going to be, I believe, a fascinating conversation, and I'm excited to have that. And so be looking for Aubrey Edwards in the next week or two, but she is committed and just couldn't work it out this week. We got a tropical storm coming here, and so had to change it around. But I'm looking forward to that interview with Aubrey Edwards, and looking forward in just a minute to talking with Melissa Peterson, Nitro Girl Spice. Do want to remind you that you could hear this show for free on adfreeshows.com, but incredible content. Somebody posted something on Twitter about the hours of content and how long it would take, I think, to listen to the hours of content, how much video they got in a week, how much audio they got in a week. It's just absurd. It's absolutely absurd. For $9 at the lowest tier, and you get all that content. You don't get everything. You don't get, there's higher contents for higher tiers, but you get all the shows, all the audio and ad. It's all ad free. There's no ads in them. And like I said, $9, it's less than a Domino's pizza. So I believe in it. I'm not just saying it because I work there. If I stopped working here tomorrow, I would still be their biggest fan. So if you have $9 a month and you love this business and you want some great content, Jeff Jarrett, Arn Anderson, JR, Kurt Angle, Bruce Pritchard, I always forget somebody and I apologize. But be sure to go in, and for $9 a month, you get into the club, so to speak. And it really is that. It's like a club. It's like a club of wrestling fans who just love this business and love the content. So, and of course, led by our leader, Conrad, and his incredible team. I'm just honored to be here. And thank you for being a part of it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My guest this week on Sitting Ringside, in all honesty, in 4 years, she's been on my bucket list of people to talk to. Wanted to get her point of view about a unique group called the Nitro Girl, somebody that I had the pleasure of introducing almost every Monday and Tuesday. And I didn't know how to find her. And then one day, you go to Facebook and they say, you should friend request this person. And I did. And for some strange reason, she accepted. And I said, hey, come on the podcast. I've been wanting to have you on. She is Dr. Melissa Peterson. I know her as Nitro Girl Spice. Welcome to Sitting Ringside.
Yay. Thank you. It's so fun and wonderful to be here.
Yeah, so let's talk some Nitro Girls. Let's dive right into it. So you're sitting at home,
Okay.
you're sitting in your doctor's office, and I'm assuming you got a call, or how does the whole thing get started from your perspective?
The Nitro Girls?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm diving right in.
I love it. How did the Nitro Girls get started? Okay. So here's my experience and
yeah, from your perspective.
From my perspective, yeah. So I'll give backstory first. I met Kimberly a couple of years prior to anything Nitro Girl related. And so we all worked out at the same gym in good old Marietta, Georgia at the time. And I taught a ton of fitness and dance classes. And Kimberly, a couple of years prior, had come to me to choreograph some of her fitness routines. And I had done that. So we had had a friendship over time. And then we see each other every once in a while. She got really busy and wrestling was becoming like a thing, right? And I was like, what? I didn't watch it. It was not on my radar, even a little bit. I was like, gosh, Kim, that's so exciting for you. So now all of a sudden she was gone a lot with Paige at the time. And so I don't know what the time frame was that went by, but I hear a rumble through the grapevine that something's going on with a girl dance group and wrestling. Like it was super through the grapevine. And this instructor calls me up, a fellow fitness instructor calls me up and he's like, Melissa, I'm going to be the choreographer and you are going to be in this group. And Kimberly is doing this. I'm like, what? Kim? I'm like, Kim's my friend. Like, what's going on? So we run into each other and I'm like, Kim, are you starting a group? Like, what's happening? Like, I'm hearing this stuff. She's like, oh, Melissa, you're just the person I wanted to run into. She's like, I'm so glad that I'm seeing you. She's like, yes, we're starting this group. I've gotten the green light. It's kind of like the Spice Girls, but it's in wrestling. And we're looking for these really unique characters. Everybody doesn't have to be a professional dancer. We want a variety of levels. And we're really looking for strong looks and great background. Can you be a part of this? Like, can you help? And so I helped to set up some auditions and we're going through everything. And I'll never forget it. It comes down to like, we have a phone call and she goes, Melissa, she's like, I want you. She goes, you're of course going to be a choreographer. She goes, I want you in this group. But I was black hair. Like my hair naturally is very dark. And she's like, but the problem is there's too many brunettes. And she's like, I need a blonde. I'm like, I'll dye my hair, Kim. It's not a big deal. She's like, oh, you will? Oh my gosh, it's done. You're in. And so that was kind of like the wrap on getting things started. We had 2 weeks to get ready. And there we were, Orlando, right? 1997, boom, on the scene.
It sounds to me the way you looking at it was just happened that this was a dance troupe that was in a pro wrestling company. Not that you were going to work for a pro wrestling company. You were just doing your deal in the middle of this circus that they call pro wrestling.
And pretty much. I mean, like, I didn't have an appreciation at the time that it was meant to be any, or could be, or would be anything more than, yeah, we're just going to go, to me, in my brain, we were going to be kind of like the Fly Girls way back in the day, J-Lo, sure. Right? Like kind of the in living color. And I knew that, I loved that. And so it made a lot of sense to me. But I didn't really have anything else, any other context besides being a kid and watching Saturday morning wrestling and watching Hulk Hogan, and Ricky Steamboat and all those guys kind of on the Saturday matches. That was the last time I'd watched wrestling. It was kind of crazy.
So when you heard that Sting was there, you thought the police were in concert after the show?
Yeah, luckily, I worked out at his gym.
Oh, okay.
So I did have some contacts. Like I saw a lot of the guys, but I wasn't a fan. I wasn't kind of like, I wasn't there in any way to try to know them, they were just people like I was. We were all there doing our workouts. I was running classes. I was working actually for them as one of their fitness instructors. So
So who came up with the names? Was that a group effort? Did everybody get to pick their own name?
Everybody got to pick their own name. And we were given, again, we had less than 2 weeks to get ready for a bunch of girls who had never been on television. Half of them didn't have professional dance background, to try to find outfits. Like a lot had to go into a very short window of time. And so as far as character development, Kim basically just said, hey, you all have to come up with names, but you really shouldn't have your own name because, you're a character in wrestling. We still didn't even understand baby faces, heels, any of that, right? We didn't understand any of it. So we just kind of sat down and she's like, come up with a alter ego. Like, who do you want to be out there? And I'll never forget just really kind of going, well, how would I describe myself? Like because as a performer, I mean, I've danced since I was 2.5 years old. And I was already dancing, and I danced in the Olympics. I was dancing on music videos. I was in a bunch of things by that point. And people would always comment on how expressive I was when I danced. And so I just kind of thought about my attitude, right? Like, what did my attitude portray when I was on stage, as well as who I felt that I was as a person? And I was like, I like spice. Like, spice is fun because I'm a little sugar and spice. I'm a little sassy and sweet. I'm a Gemini. I'm a little this and that, right? A little hard and soft, my husband calls me his feisty Italian. So I think that kind of sums it all up. Got a little feist, got a lot of sweetness, and a huge compassionate heart.
So after a while, the first week you go, you're probably nervous, 2 weeks to prepare, all that stuff. You go out and do your dance routine. But after a couple of weeks or a month, I don't know how long it takes, you go back to the hotel, everybody's drinking at the bar. You kind of had to realize at some point that, just because you were your own little dance troupe, you were traveling with a circus, and it was a very unique circus. When did you kind of realize that, and what were your thoughts?
I mean, come on, David. I realized that day one, but I wouldn't call it a circus. I mean, we were organized chaos, right? Like, it was really, to me, it was cartoon characters come to life. It was rock and roll meets, superheroes. It was a fascinating environment to be in. But here's how I'll sum it up. So we went live Monday night what was it? It was in the summer. It was in July, right, of 97. And there had just been a pay-per-view the weekend before in Daytona. So we actually went down that weekend so we could have a girl bonding time. So Kim had us all come down. We literally had one hotel room for all of us. Talk about girl bonding. Like, we're like in cots and all of it, because Kim felt really strongly like we all need to just immerse ourselves and like in this whole, thing. So we go down to this and we're practicing, like we're working out several times a day, doing our stuff by day. And that first night, so it was Saturday night before the pay-per-view, and we're in Daytona and we go out to a club. And so Kim kind of like, we were her little baby ducklings, but we're in the hotel. And I remember the moment we got there on Saturday morning, just watching everybody go crazy, like the fans waiting at the doors, the fans being in the lobbies, the fans being everywhere around the hotel, the fans waiting for people. And I had no experience with this. I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Now, at this point, like, my hair had never been dyed. I never wore makeup. I didn't even know how the hell to put makeup on, right? And I'm just like, and there's girls, I mean, like Miss All Natural. And I'm like, where am I at? What is going, like, what is happening here? So we go out that night. This was the craziest thing to me. I don't know if I should say this because I don't want to be demeaning, but I'm just going to play it out like the way it was. I'm just going to
tell your story.
Totally transparent. So we go to this club and, and we're just kind of watching. And these girls come up to Dallas, to there was a couple of the guys there, and they blonde and big hair, and they were like twins, and they just were hanging around, and they wanted them to sign like their breast or something, like some body part, right? And I'm just still kind of like, what have I stepped into? I'm in the final days of getting my doctorate, right? Getting ready to go. I'm just like, I don't know where I'm at. And I'm not in judgment. I'm in fascination. I'm in total, like, this is awesome. This is super interesting. And I'm like, who are these girls? And what was said is they were called this. I don't know. I don't want to be demeaning to anybody, but at that time, the term was ring rat, like these people who hang around the ring to try to get close to the wrestlers, and they would come all the places. And I was like, I don't like that name very much. I don't understand this, but the girls loved it. They thought the guys were amazing. And that was my first, like, oh my gosh, that day, that Saturday, going into it all, people's body parts getting signed, lines everywhere, just the circus, the show was in full effect.
The term ring rat, just so people don't, because we live in a totally different world right now.
We do.
And it's good. And that's good. That's not a bad thing. Was a term that came out in the territory days when wrestling had different territories in the 1970s and early 80s. And the girls in each town would come and they'd pick the wrestlers up, they'd take them out, they'd buy them stuff, they'd perform, I don't know. That's where that term came from. But yeah, it sort of fell out of favor back then, and now I've never heard it used. But yeah, look, that's what they were called at the time. So you got to tell your story.
And I want to give total context as a woman, and all the women, like, there was nothing, it's interesting. You're right. Like, when I sit here and say we're in different times, like, I would never use that vernacular. It was an interesting thing to just really kind of, and it wasn't even untours. It was, I guess it was historical, right? It's kind of like, here's this term, because it wasn't like it was being said in a negative way. It was just like a matter of fact, like, oh, this is what this is. And so it was kind of culture and historical in the sense. And so not to be in a demeaning way at all. It was just like, oh, and that's why I was like, oh, where am I at? I don't know about this history. I don't know about this culture. I don't know about this circus environment that feels like a show, but it's a whole other world that I know you can appreciate, David. At the end of the day, what happened in a relatively short amount of time is whatever we call normal, right? My life back at home, my normal life, began feeling abnormal. And the abnormal life on the road became normal. And it was a flip-flop. And I really still don't quite know how to describe that to people, because I guess until you have a real shift in your environment and your perception, and you're just in such a different world than what your normal day to day would be, that you may not fully be able to appreciate the contrast. So it was an amazing experience. I loved it for so many reasons. And it was really a whole shift in my awareness of just, different contexts of life, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it does. It's a totally different lifestyle. And yeah, it's so ironic that you said that, because I don't know that I've been able to put it so eloquently, but that, your wrestling life seems normal, and then you go home and changing diapers. I was, at least, and
yeah.
and you got to do your own laundry, and nobody, nobody's out there and, taking pictures and stuff. And it's a totally different thing. By the way, just to put a period at the end of the sentence on, because of the times we live in, every sports teams have groupies. Bands had groupies. I don't know what they were called. I'm sure Motley Crue groupies were called something.
You got to get excited about saving people all those dollars. They can limousine ride and jet fly now with that extra cash.
And they can style and profile with a quick 10-minute phone call right now to 425-0105.
That's 425-0105. Woo!
SaveWithConrad.com.
To this day, I go to a Tampa Bay Rays baseball game, and there's a bunch of girls sitting up there winking and waving at the players. So it's nothing. It's nothing. And you also had mentioned that you danced in the Olympics. Is that when the Olympics were in Atlanta?
Yeah.
My sister danced there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There were many of us, but I my dance troupe, we auditioned with a piece that I choreographed. We got in,
cool.
It was like right up there in front with a few performances. And that was an experience. That was a bucket list experience, no doubt.
So you get to perform your song that you choreographed, or that's just
no? Oh gosh, no. The Olympics, like those opening ceremonies and all the things. It is such an orchestrated event. It was months in the making. It's just fascinating to me, like having choreographed for a period of time in my life, for at least a decade or more. Just even having 20 people is a thing, let alone I can't imagine having hundreds. It's just, what they do every time they put on those ceremonies is spectacular.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to put this the right way. In the wrestling business, there's drama. It's not so much. A lot of times it's about who's going over, who's winning the belt, who's getting a push. Once this thing took off, was there any drama in the Nitro Girls? And if so, Any stories you could tell?
We're so boring. Like, I'm just gonna, I don't want to burst anybody's. I got to tell you, I'm going to take a side note before I answer this. It was, gosh, probably 10 years ago now. A good friend of mine who's a television producer, everybody was like, you girls are still so relevant. Like, why aren't you girls doing something together? And we had people come to us and want to do a show with us and want to do a YouTube channel, the different things. But what reality television is, and really I would say what, Nitro was back in the days, was early reality television. That's when The Real World was on MTV. Wow. We were real. We were live. Everything else was pre-recorded, it's put out seasonally. So that was one of the elements that made the show so good. And you wanted to be there. You wanted to watch through the commercials because you wanted to see if the drama was happening and where it was at. And what was really interesting to me is, again, 10 years later, right? So we're now 20 years out from this moment in time when Nitro was a thing. So about 10 years ago, as they're asking us to do this, and we're all have professional lives and marriages and kids and all the things. And there's a formula. And they're just like, well, it has to be drama and you have to do this and you have to do that. And I'm like, but that's not who we are. And so none of us were down with compromising our integrity as who we were as humans and as friends. And so the boring answer is there really wasn't drama. There were a few moments, and I'll go ahead and share some of those with you. But the reality is we were so close and we were so together all the time. So when we weren't on the road, we were back in the studio and we were rehearsing every single day. We were together many hours a day. You're going through life together. You're going just like a family. You're going through hardship. You're going through joys. You're going through challenges. You're going through self-discovery and growing. And we're growing and learning together in this new format that was the #1 rated show. I mean, imagine this. Here we are, 6 girls, Kim being the exception because she was already in it. So 5 of us stepping into this culture that we didn't know, on the #1 rated television show at the time that we just didn't understand it. So all we had was each other and dance. So we're just dancing. We're just doing our part because we didn't understand everything else. We're like, we just got to get our stuff together because there was a huge learning curve because, again, there were different styles and different capabilities and different backgrounds. So try to create unity and synergy really quickly so that we could move through it. And Eric Bischoff really quickly made it clear there is no fraternizing, there is no drama. Like, we need to be the pretty face of wrestling. We need to be the good face, the family-friendly face. We need to be exactly actually who we were. I mean, and Kimberly did an amazing job of picking incredible women because, and we still all say it when we get together to this day, it is rare. It really is rare. And especially then in television and all of it, to be able to get 6 women that were, awesome, like smart, intelligent, beautiful, like each brought their own secret sauce to the table, to be able to bring 6 women together that there wasn't drama, there wasn't inner jealousy and catfighting and undermining and all the things. So we were something super special. And the core group of the Nitro Girls always maintained that, even as new people came in and a few people left. And I think it's because it was, that family, and we really, it meant everything to us. And then later, and I would really say in the last year of the show, as more women, as they started to bring more women back into the storylines and other roles, as the dressing room got bigger and other people that weren't in that family that didn't have the same kind of interests and bonds and commitment, then there was a lot more things happening in the dressing room. And you just saw stuff that you're like, okay, she's trying to get hers. All right. I'm not going to fault her. Like, girl's got to eat. She's doing what she's doing because she's trying to get seen, trying to get ahead, trying to carve out her future in this niche and in this industry. So, things did happen later, but never within the group specifically.
So you come to Daytona, you see all these people, they're asking for autographs, they're taking pictures, they're getting their body parts signed. Take away the latter one, but a few months later, you're the one getting the pictures taken with. You're the one signing the autographs. How does that automatic fame? How do you handle that? Because I didn't handle it too well, and I was just a ring announcer. You guys were way more famous than I was.
You know what? I think that it's interesting. I'm really, really considering this fully as you're asking the question, so I can be as honest as possible. It was, again, I go back to, I never fully appreciated and understood. I didn't understand wrestling culture. I did not understand the just the diehard fans. Like, I think wrestling is amazing because we have fans as an industry unlike any other. And I never really got that full, true lesson and understanding until I was out of it. And so coming back to this, I'm in it, but I didn't ever feel like the superstar. I wasn't the Hulk Hogan. And so it was like super sweet and flattering. And we loved our fans. We always made time for everybody. I never felt put off by it. I never felt overwhelmed or overloaded. And I never felt, it was never lost on me that here are these humans showing up. They're traveling, they're spending their hard-earned money. They're standing here for hours, to see us, just to say hi to us. And I mean, I didn't even have speaking lines. I wasn't wrestling, right? Like, I'm just like, it was humbling. It was really humbling. And so I was always deeply, deeply, deeply appreciative. And still to this day, whenever we go out and do signings, it is the most, like, to have people now, and it dates me, right? But like the last time when we got to see each other, I guess it was 2 years ago now in New York, but it was crazy. We're kind of coming to the end of our signing session. And this group of guys who were probably in their, like, I don't know, I'm going to say late 20s, early mid 30s or somewhere in there. They come over and they're just like, oh my gosh, Spice. And they're just, I'm like, like, yes. And it was this Frenchman. He was just so lovely. He was so handsome. He was so adorable. And his friends, and he was speechless. And his friends are like, you don't understand. You're his favorite. You've always been his favorite. He's loved you since he's been a kid. You've been on his wall. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I mean, I'm not like, of course I was. Yeah, that's awesome. Screw off, whatever. Like, I'm sitting there absolutely, it's the most precious thing. And I still am like, I cannot believe that I, in some way, impacted somebody and impacted them so deeply that as an adult man, still was speechless when he met me. And to me, I'm humbled, and I keep saying the same word, but I don't know what else to say, because I just can't believe that I somehow had impact like that.
Let me preface this by saying you're always one of the most humblest, down to earth people in the catering. I'd just say, because you weren't in the same locker rooms, obviously. But did you ever get an ego? Did you ever start noticing, getting a little full of yourself?
What's funny? I'll tell you, it's actually hard for me to look back on some of the videos from wrestling, and especially like some of the interviews and stuff, because I'm like, ooh, I look at it and my skin crawls, because I'm like, ooh, like, was that me? Like, I don't, like, that doesn't feel authentic. That doesn't feel like who I was. But to answer your question, did I have an ego? There was a few things happening. Where I felt ego wasn't on the road. It was off the road. I somehow had this sense that I was different, not meaning I was better because I was on this show and all this stuff, but I just felt different, right? Like, these people just don't understand. And I don't know how. And I was at a point where instead of leaning in and looking for ways to connect and create common ground and shared experiences, I was actually like disassociating, pulling back. So feeling more isolated versus more together with life outside of wrestling. And, and just in total transparency, I'm sure that's what I was married during it. And I'm sure that's a big reason why I ended up getting divorced, because I felt so disconnected from, again, everyday life, and I didn't know how to communicate it. So did I have an ego? I had a I'm different then, and I don't know what to do with that. And I'm not quite sure how to articulate that and what to do with it in everyday life. It wasn't that I thought I was better than somebody and I was famous, because I never saw myself as famous, ever, ever, ever. And so there was one other thing I wanted to say with that. But anyway, I don't know if that answers it or not.
No, absolutely. And I appreciate your honesty. So whose idea was it to come up with a contest for another Nitro Girl? Was that your idea? Was that the office?
It was not. It was actually the office. And I don't know. And I really don't know if it was Kim in the office, because we weren't part of those meetings. So at that point, Kim was still kind of the, the administrator, the manager, if you will. So she was really that liaison with the decisions that were made. We just basically got told, hey, we're doing a contest. So we're going to find another Nitro Girl. And it was kind of like, what? Oh my gosh. And that was a bit of the moment where it was like, oh, is somebody getting canned? Like is our family going to be broken up? And it was really interesting. And I think that this is a normal, unfortunate tactic, but I think this is a very normal tactic in a lot of organizations, where fear is used to try to drive the behavior that you want or the outcome that you want. So we would get told often, any of you can be replaced.
Ooh.
Yeah, like we would get told that often. And I'm not saying that was from Kimberly. It was told to us that was coming from up above, right? Kind of whoever the powers that be, nameless, faceless powers that be in the organization. And who knows? And again, I've heard, this is way outside of wrestling. I've heard that so many times from so many people in different careers, corporations, organizations, even in relationships. I mean, think about how many people use fear-based tactics, like do it my way, be who I want you to be, or you're out of here. You don't do it the way I want, I'm not going to love you. I'm not going to keep you. I'm not going to, you're not worthy. And it's such to me, that whole kind of line of how we treat ourselves and one another is way outdated. But at the time, 20 years ago, so when the contest came, it was kind of like, are they really going to get rid of us? Like, are we really going to get booted? Who's it going to be? Everybody's like on their P's and Q's, right? Going, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. You get into this rock and roll lifestyle,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you don't want to lose it,
Yeah.
and they could play with you, mind games and stuff.
Yeah.
It took me a long time, and we're very good. I don't want to say very good, but we're pretty good friends now, but it took me a long time to get over being intimidated by Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
And I've had that conversation with him and stuff, and he was like, "I'm sorry," but he didn't have to apologize. But it was, the guy held the future, the key to life future in his hand, basically.
He did. And think about it. Like, I mean, really, again, when you're in it, you cannot always appreciate it. So when I was in it, like, I was like, why doesn't it, why is Eric such a hard ass to all of us? Like, we're showing up. We're not problem childs at all. We're like doing a good job. And he was always a hard ass. Right. And it was kind of like, how do you get in Eric's favor? Well, there really wasn't getting in Eric's favor,
No.
right? At all. And so it wasn't until afterwards, and until I became a mom, until I ran my own companies, had my own employees, like people I had to manage and oversee, that I actually got appreciation for, like, oh my God, this guy. And not only did he have a division in Turner that he was responsible for, but then he was responsible to Turner, right? So it's like, he's the head that's going to get chopped if any of us mess up that machine that was a very profitable machine at that time on television. So
yeah, I mean, the pressure he had to be under to produce to keep producing the #1 rated episodic storyline wrestling or cable show in the country had to be huge.
And it's live, right? Like live television. And we didn't get off seasons. Like, again, when you look at television, when you look at media, when you look at content today, and just what it always was, like, we were such this unicorn. Like, we had such high standards placed upon us. But there was never an off season, and the wrestlers never got time to heal, to rest, to repair. The writers didn't get new sources of creativity. Like, you just had to keep going and going and going and hustle and grinding and pray to God that you can keep your foot on the gas to outrun, the competitors that are biting at our heels, and they got a new car and they're going faster. I was like, yeah, it's crazy.
I could tell that you actually got the business. I mean, you totally get this business. It's crazy. But you are a doctor, and I know that very intelligent. So I don't expect anything else. So when you saw Stacy Keibler in Baltimore, did you think to yourself, she has something, or was it just like another dancer?
No, I did. And it's really interesting. I guess I don't have the, but again, you got to think, I was looking at her as a dancer, right? And so what ended up being seen was not her as a dancer, but her as an icon to men, right? I mean, just this classic kind of thing. So she was so sweet. Like I remember meeting her, and she was 19. She was such a baby then. We were all babies, but she was a baby. And she was like, Spice, I love you. You are my favorite. Like I watch you every week. She was the most complimentary, the most just endearing. Like she really was like sweet as honey, right? And it was super, super true to just who she was as a young girl. She was bright-eyed. She loved wrestling. And I will never forget, she was engaged when she came. We're like, oh no, this isn't gonna last, because this is like, but she was like engaged and she loved wrestling, and she was just like, it was so sweet. Like whether she got that or not, she was just so honored and enjoy just for that opportunity to be there in that moment. But I feel that is what everybody saw. I feel like that's what the world got to see, right? They somehow felt her effervescence, her true, just like just love of just like, here I am. And it was amazing. I mean, she danced with us for like 2 times, and then storylines, it all happened so quickly. Everything shifted like that overnight.
Yeah, she was a sweetheart, and she's done okay for herself, I think.
I'd say. I think she's done pretty good.
So before we go to the second part of this story, which is what I've been, believe it or not, which is what I've been really interested in talking to you about. When after you said the powers that be, after one Vince Russo came in and shook the whole thing to its core. Well, any thoughts on Wildcat Willie, DJ Ran, any of the, we were always the pregame show. Any thoughts on that?
Gosh, I loved all of them. Man, DJ Ran, we kept in touch for a little while just through social media years later. Ricky Rackman, I loved my time with Ricky. He was awesome. Super, super cool guy. And, the fact that, so Chad Damiani, so when I got to do some of the gosh, what were our shows that we did together before the pay-per-views? Like we did stuff. I love those guys. Still keep in touch with Chad to this day. Deli Boy, he's amazing. So I don't know. I mean, my thoughts were, I was so blessed truly to meet some super fun people. Just incredible, like just big, and everybody backstage. I mean, this, Dave, like I really do feel, I think a lot of the guys, especially the guys that were the higher up, as far as like the bigger guys, whatever, they kind of really kept a tight, low profile. They weren't just like, hey, let's be buddies, let's hang. They were just like nose down, just kind of like moving on. They'd eat, they do their thing. They weren't as quite as, just like we're a family. But I get it. Like they were professionals. They got to watch it. But everybody else, the crew, right? I loved our production crew. Man, I freaking loved our production crew, our DJs, I mean, you name it, like whoever came in, our younger guys, like everybody was super fun and just happy to be a part of it all. People were always smiling, always.
It was a blast. And it was exhausting, but it was a blast.
Yeah.
So I hit on it a little bit. So you guys are doing your thing, dancing, getting more famous. I think you had a pay-per-view, and no drama, you claim, and I believe you because I would watch the reality show 20 years later, the Nitro Girls with their families and all that. But I do understand that reality shows are not reality. Reality shows are drama. And I respect the fact that you guys didn't want to do that, actually, because it could have gotten really hot. You had a built-in audience for sure, and those shows are hot. I mean, even my son, my 26-year-old son, watches 90 Day Fiance.
Yeah.
So then Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff leaves, burnout. Vince Russo comes in. I've been very honest on the show, and I've had this conversation with Vince. It's nothing personal. I like Vince as a person. I wish him the best. I wasn't a fan of what he did with the company, and so I'm not going to ask you if you were either, but all of a sudden he's like, dancers. And I don't know that this is word for word, so don't quote me on it. But he's like, dancers? What do we have dancers for? What do we have a dance shoot for? When did you start to get word of that, and how did that go over? Because that, that had to really throw a wrench in the whole thing. 1 week, you guys are what you are. Bischoff supports it. Kimberly's in charge. You got, you're doing your pay-per-views and your photo shoots and your autograph sessions, and then all hell breaks loose, really.
Yeah. So obviously there's rumblings, right? And everybody, context, this is pre-social media. This is pre-smartphones. Like, we couldn't just see and grab it. So this is just good old school, like, right? Like on the grapevine kind of thing. And so as the transition was happening, as he was coming in, it was kind of like, hold on, everybody, hold on tight. And because Kim was Paige's husband, right? And although she didn't divulge much to us, we at least got a sense of the rumblings, because she still, as in her role, had to maintain her confidentiality, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. So while we were shocked, I don't think we were surprised. We knew something was coming. We didn't know what that meant. And so, we held on tight. We watched storylines play out, right? We watched things evolve and circle and cycles. So we're just like, okay, we're going to be a part of it in a new way. And this can be really exciting. So I think a lot of us were excited at the potential, and could this expand into more opportunities, because we had wanted opportunities. Like, we wanted to be able to, be more involved. Like, I mean, I did a lot of I loved interviewing, right? I loved getting to kind of do this kind of stuff, and had made it known. And I flew on my own dime to different pay-per-views to be there to do the shows with Deli Boy and things like that. And to kind of like put skin in the game and kind of show up and just like, be able to be seen, if you will. But Eric's, it was a very specific role the Nitro Girls were supposed to play. I absolutely respect that. When it shifted, we were hopeful. Maybe this could be something different, something new. This could be exciting. We never could have seen how quickly it was all going to dismantle, shift, come into something new, and then all come to an end, right? Like it crashed and burned fast. And I will say this, because I've actually said this on interviews before, and I think I will tell you, and I am going to write a book at one day. I learned so many life lessons from wrestling, so many things that have carried me well through life in coaching thousands of doctors, of my peer doctors, coaches, clinicians, to show up and be better for their patients and clients, as well as my own clients. Thousands of people coaching one-on-one, group retreats, really working with people to truly ignite their own potential within, and to understand who they are and how they're here to really be, and how they can show up confidently with joy and don't have to just survive. You're meant to thrive, and how to do it. So for me, and I really got this firsthand in wrestling, because we were number one. I always say we were number one until we weren't. And as the ratings began to dip and slip, we became the classic fight or flight response. So as a doctor, I'm going to sit here all day and I'll tell you guys about the stress response and what it does to your brain and what it does to your body and what it does to aging and all these things. But in the context of wrestling, all of a sudden, instead of being proactive, instead of being creative, instead of staying fresh and relevant, we got afraid. And instead of playing to our strengths, we played to our weaknesses. Instead of playing to our strengths and figuring out how to continue to build upon what we were really strong at, we looked to our competition and we tried to replicate them. So we stopped being, this is my opinion. This is my
you're right.
perception.
You're 1,000% right.
But we stopped being, as a company, as an organization, who we were. I mean, and that the whole thing filled with individuals, but we were a brand. So we stopped being our brand. We tried to be another that we weren't. And at that time, we had so many regulations, and, the FCC and Turner was not WWE. Like, we just didn't have the same capacity to be able to do some of those really raw, no pun intended, but some of those fringe kind of racy things that they were doing, we couldn't compete. And so then we think Russo's our answer. He comes in, he's like, we're going to get as close as we can to that because that's what's winning on television right now. But again, we had so many regulations, we couldn't do it to the same degree. So we were always a step or 2 or 3 behind, which made us the lesser. We could never compete in that same field. So I think that was the biggest thing. It wasn't even about Russo. It was just like we compromised our integrity and who we were as a brand. And because of that, we failed.
And what we didn't know at the time, but at least I know now, I don't know how closely you follow it, is that Turner was losing power within, and the people that the companies that were coming in to work with him hated wrestling. I mean, it was a fait accompli. It was going to happen even if we were successful. You know, it took me 20 years to realize, and I hosted a panel at StarCast. I think you guys were at that StarCast. But I hosted a panel, Life and Death of WCW, and Eric and Kevin Sullivan were on it, and there was somebody else who wrote a book, The Death of WCW, and I didn't even realize at the time until I got done listening to Eric talk, we didn't have a shot. I mean, we could have still been the #1 rated cable television show, and once Turner lost power, they wanted us gone. So we didn't know that at the time. So we just went about our thing, hoping we could steer the ship in the right direction. Not realizing that the ship had no rudder because we were getting cut out from under it. Hey, I didn't realize that you were the first Nitro Girl to have a wrestling match.
Was I? Oh my gosh!
According to the internet, and it's not always perfect. The first match was you versus Tigress.
That's right.
Who trained you? Who trained you for that? Were you apprehensive? It sounds to me like you guys embraced the opportunity to be characters.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I didn't get much training. Molly, right? Molly, right? Molly Holly. Sorry. Oh my gosh, she's awesome. She was. So she trained me, but we had like hardly any time to prep. So we did have to end up going to wrestling school. So I did end up needing to go into the power plant, and we were taking classes all the time. But in prep for my match, I don't even think I think I practiced twice. Like I didn't have much. So if you look at the match, right? If you look at the maneuvers and the mechanics, you see it's super simple. There's nothing really complex or complicated going on. And because I never had training, I also never felt confident. Like I can go out and dance anywhere, I can speak anywhere, but wrestling, I never ever felt confident because I just really didn't get the time and feel safe to know all the different, there's a lot to it. And so even after the match and we got split up and I had to go with Medusa and then with Evan and all the things, like I look back at some of the tapes and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I fell short on things. I just because I could always make up for it in my expressions in my face, but a lot of the things I just feel like I really fell short on because I just didn't have the proper training, or at least in my head, I didn't. So I didn't have the full confidence to just really go execute in the way. But anyway, I guess I was the first match, little time to prep. We got out there, and that's when Stacy, she turned, right? And I have shared this story before, so I don't know if your audience has heard it or not. And I will never forget that night because it was, it was so crazy. So we're going to commercial and the whole thing happens and I'm down. I just got knocked out. Right. So I'm on the mat and my eyes are closed. And Stacy and Vanessa, mind you guys, are my friends, right? We all are hanging out and we're having a love fest backstage. And now we have to go be nemesises and the whole drama is unfolding. Am I allowed to say all this, Dave? Am I allowed to give away the secret?
No, that secret's been out of the box for 20 years.
I know, right?
That was one of the problems.
Yeah, there you go. So that's when we realized that reality wasn't reality, right? There was some scripting. So anyway, there I am, laying down, just knocked out, and they're drawing on me with makeup, with lipstick or whatever. And they're just they're hee hee. They were just doing little things teasing me, not they were being their characters all Arr. They were just teasing me.
Messing with you personally.
Yes. And I was so afraid. The camera is like on me, right? And I'm just like, don't blow it, don't blow it, don't blow it, don't blow it. And I literally started to bite my tongue so I could create enough pain instead of laughing. And I'm just like, these bitches. Like, I say that with affection. I'm like, they're about to blow it for all of us. We're all going to get fired after this match. Oh my God. It was so close. And like the cameraman was so good. Just as I was coming off of the biting of my tongue, and just the slightest crack as he's like drifting the camera away. And you can catch it if you really look at it.
I'm gonna go watch that for sure.
Those girls.
Yeah. Well, that was part of the fun of it. That, ribs and all that. That's, I don't know.
Yep, for sure.
That's what helped pass the time. Like you said, there was no cell phones. There was no internet. I mean, there was internet, but it was basic, and you couldn't bring it with you for sure. I don't remember the answer to this question. I don't believe they ever put you back together again as a dance troupe. Is that correct?
Not on TV, no. And not the original. So it got dismantled. Vanessa Tigress started to wrestle. Charmel Paisley started to wrestle. Amy AC Jazz left. I got moved around, right? So I was with Medusa and Evan, and then we were supposed to have a Saturday morning show, and then it all got canceled. She was gone. She got released. Trying to think. And so then they started to bring it. Then at that time, they were bringing in Baby, and they were bringing in Sky. Like, they were bringing in a few new faces, right? Of course, Chiquita, our Chichi, I love her so much. She's amazing. That was all kind of that transition. There was this transitional period. And they were playing with the storylines. And so some of us were doing a little bit of wrestling and a little bit of dancing. And then they're like, nope, if you're wrestling, and you're no longer a Nitro Girl. And so then what happened was kind of a new choreographer came in. Kim was no longer in it. The new choreographer, that was when drama started, actually. So it was that. And so then she kind of cleaned house, and the group was really more just it wasn't on camera again. So most of what you saw was, if you were in the arena, you still got to see the performances. They were still there. They just weren't live on camera and in the storylines anymore.
And after your brief storyline, you were back in the dance troupe, correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, yes, and no, I was in and out. So after the wrestling match, after that first match, I was still in the group. So I was still the group, and now the way the storyline played out, I'm the leader, right? Whatever that meant, because Kimberly's no longer there, and now Tigress is like, all of a sudden they're starting to pull the threads of the group apart. And so I was still there for a while. So Che and I were still there, and actually Stacy was still there for a minute. And Chiquita came in, Carmel came in, right? I'm trying to think of a few and Baby came in. So we were all there dancing, and we were dancing on camera still at this time. And I honestly can't remember right now, Dave, because it wasn't like there was some scene on camera that ended or signified my departure from the Nitro Girls. One day I was just no longer there. Right? I was not there anymore.
That's kind of what the whole thing was.
Yeah, exactly.
You were still with the company at the end when they got sold, correct?
I actually, 3 months prior, my contract ended. So I wasn't there because I was off camera, and Chad and I were actually supposed to be doing a Saturday morning show. And so I was going to come in that realm. So I was still under contract. We were getting that together. And then it was kind of like, is the company getting bought? Is it getting sold? Is it staying? Like, what's happening? So they were really trying all these things to say, hey, here's our new way that we're going to freshen it up. And here's how we can do this and do that. And like really make it trendy in this new way. And at the end of the day, it all just got kiboshed. So yeah, I was at the last show, but I was not still on TV on that last show.
Talk to me about your feelings on the last show.
Oh my gosh. It was so emotional. Like afterwards, I just remember afterwards, we're all at the club, the bar, because we were in Florida. Right. And I just remember it being emotional, kind of, again, almost as surreal. My last day was probably as surreal as my first day, right? That first beginning of what have I stepped into? And now fast forward 3.5 years later, this has become my family. This is my wild, crazy crew. Like I've done so much growing. I've seen so many things, good, bad, ugly, amazing, everything in between. And now it's going to be done. And we're all just, we're not going to be here next week together. I don't know. It's just, it was sad. It was beautiful and it was sad. And, oh, boo.
Any thought of at least on your end of trying to follow the circus and continue in the business? Try to get into WWE. I mean, you're a doctor.
Hey, my friend, I love that you would even ask that, dude. It's been 20 years. This girl is not getting in any wrestling ring. No, thank you.
No. I meant immediately after that.
Oh. I was like, wait, what?
No. I'm saying after you leave, are you hooked enough?
Yeah.
Are you hooked enough that you're thinking, I want to keep doing this? Or are you thinking, you know what? I got my doctorate. I'm going to go back to normal.
It was interesting. So people may know this. Some of our fans know this, and maybe you do or don't. But we also, so the Nitro Girls, the original Nitro Girls, we had been approached by some different music producers, and they really wanted us to be the next Spice Girls. They wanted us to be the next girl group out there because we had name, face recognition and all that. And so I think for us, we were really fortunate that we had that going on. So even though on camera, we're apart and things are falling apart with the business, back in Atlanta, we were all still together every day. We were at vocal lessons every day. We were meeting with producers. We were like finding songs. We were figuring out how to sing together. Only a couple of us actually sang. So just like when we started dancing, there was only a few of us that were actually professional dancers. Right? When we started singing, there was only a few of us that were professional singers. And so then not only did we have to learn how to sing, but we had to learn how to harmonize. I mean, this is in the throes of like the boy bands, Backstreet Boys were harmonizing with perfection and, the whole deal. And so, and then how to dance and sing on harmony and point in time, like it is a skill set. I'm just going to say to anybody out there, it is a skill set. So we had that. And I think that consumed so much of our attention. We weren't actively like, oh my God, we got to get to WWE. We got to get on their radar. Sharmell got on their radar, right? So, I think she was fortunate. She was very talented, and also, I think she got some good words put in with a couple of people, and so she had to go earn her stripes, though. I mean, Sharmell had to go do the indie circuit. But she made that choice. She's like, no, I feel like this is going to be a more beneficial path for me than being in a music group. And she was actually it was the producers that came to her to get us together to start the group. And so when
Diversity 5, right?
Yeah.
Diversity 5.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. So go ahead. How long did that last? And was there, did you do any concerts? Did you, I saw you were on a television show.
We were on a television show, 15 Seconds of Fame. That should sum it up right there, Dave.
Oh,
or 30 Seconds to Fame.
That was the name of the show?
That was very telling of our music career. Yeah. I mean, it was actually a great experience. We got to go out to LA. We did do some local things in Atlanta. We did and the music industry is I didn't have to break into the wrestling industry, but watching other people attempt to break into it, I will say that the music industry is as hard and harder and harder. And so, just because we had name, face recognition, we didn't have it in the music industry. So we were nobodies and we were nothing. And it was really funny. Here's a story. And I'll tell you, to hear her tell this story, she does it the best. She's so freaking funny. But we were going to a club one night in Atlanta to do this big signing and this debut. And we had our little LP. So we were brought in by these music promoters, and we get there to the red carpet, and they're like, who are you girls? Who are you girls? And we're like, we're Diversity 5. And they're like, the who? We're like, oh, how far we have fallen. Who are you? We're like, nobody. We're here. We're supposed to do the signing. Can we come in?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Talk about, humility at his best. We're like, maybe we're not cut out for this. So yeah, we really stuck with it for probably almost 2 years. And I mean, again, paying our dues, doing the things, being in the studio, cutting tracks, and got to go out to LA, be on television, and we were close. We actually had several companies that wanted to come to us, but the thing about us, so now at that point, we're all in our early 30s and we're smart. Like, we're business women. Like, we're not 18-year-olds who will just take anything.
Right.
And so the way a music contract works out, like the way the points work, the money you get paid, it's ridiculous. Like, you got to do it when you're young, because you really make your money in the music industry. It's probably different today because it was way before Spotify and everything that we've got now. But at that time, you didn't really get paid much for making albums. Like, what you got paid on is if you're going to do shows and you're going to do merch and all that kind of stuff. And so what we were being offered and the point spread to divide between 5 of us, we're like, we cannot afford to take these contracts. Like, we cannot afford, like, we'd be further off ahead to go, get a job at a bank or something. Like, this is not going to work. So we just had to all decide, like, this was fun and an awesome dream. And we are so proud of everything we've put in, but now it's time to, like, really think about our futures and how do we want to live and what kind of lives do we want? And this is not going to sustain a healthy, abundant, financially thriving, emotionally thriving kind of life. So we all said,
it was a hell of a run, is what you said.
It was a hell of a run, indeed.
Who's still? I know you're still stay in touch with Fire and Shay, and I'm assuming Charmel. Do you still stay in touch with Kimberly?
No, I mean, yes and no. I should say but honestly, the last time we talked was probably, might have been 3 years ago.
Really?
She really, we did keep in touch for a while. So for those first probably 5 years after, we all stayed really quite close and quite connected. And then, after she and Paige split and ended their marriage, and, she's, oh my gosh, her man he's awesome. Paige is awesome. They're all still, like, they are such great couples together. They've got such amazing friendships. And so she moved, right? And she kind of went and out West and whole other life and whole other thing. And yeah, we just kind of lost touch. But I love her, I know she's got a good man and she's living life and loving it. So that's good.
How often do you still get recognized? Often?
If somebody recognizes me, they don't say anything to me. I will say it's been a while. I feel like it was back when I was still in Atlanta. I literally one day had somebody stop me. I'm like, "Are you Spice?" And every once in a while you see people giving you looks, but I don't see anybody recognizing me today that I'm aware of. So
you look exactly the same. You look great. You definitely aged better than many of us. You got me hooked on this Real Housewives of the Nitro Girl stuff. I can't stop thinking about that, man. I respect the fact that you guys didn't want to do fake drama, but God, that would have been good. So now that the world's getting back to normal, knock on wood, and wrestling conventions are coming back, is that still something you guys are interested in doing?
Yeah, I think that absolutely is the easy answer. And it's tough for any promoter to bring all of us because, they've got to pay what one promoter can bring one wrestler personality for. They've got to pay that times 5, and they just, like, we're kind of a lost leader. I don't think we make as much money for the promoters. So they'll bring in a couple of us, and we've got a few promoters that love us, and they always are like, "Can you girls come?" And, who's available? And Che and I are always up to say yes if we know we're going to get to be together. And Fire, like, usually you'll see Che and Fire and myself. Like, We are the three that if we can make it happen, we make it happen. AC Jazz is super not, once in a while she'll say yes and come out. And Tigress does not do signings at all anymore. That's not anything she does. And then, Charmel has her own company and their own brand. So she doesn't really, we went down there once and did some stuff with her and with ROW and all that good stuff. So, yeah.
So if somebody wants to contact you guys to bring 3 of you out, little Nitro Girl reunion, how do they do that?
Well, we're all on social. If people want to get in touch with me directly, a message will get to me through my site. My team will get it. And that's over at docmelissa.com. And I really say this please, guys, I love to hear from you, but please don't inundate my assistant in my inbox with just I loved you. You were my favorite. Post that stuff all day long on social media if you want. And I love you and I will heart you and give you a message back. But please, understand that my business is, really working with patients and clients, that want to come work with me one-on-one and really have those breakthroughs. So if you are a promoter or somebody that wants to try to have a professional conversation, see how to contract us, see about, whether you want me for a keynote talk or something like that, go to my website, docmelissa.com. Everything else, I'm at Dr. Melissa GP on Instagram. I'm never on Twitter. I don't know. I think I'm Dr. Melissa GP at Twitter. Facebook, I've got so many different pages on Facebook. Melissa Girl Peterson is my main one. Longevity Life Hub. I don't know. It's just too many things to keep up with. So Instagram.
In that vein, as we let you go and appreciate your time and honesty, it's been refreshing. One of the more fun interviews I've done, and I've done a lot of fun ones. Tell people, without giving away too much, because I've got to respect your privacy. What are you up to now? What's 20 years later? What is Spice doing?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty open about all the things. Nothing too secretive. I'm really big in. So again, my mission, my passion, my work, what is in my heart and soul, is that I absolutely know that we are going through a rapid evolution, a great awakening within ourselves, that we actually have within us the ability to truly thrive by design. And so I'm big in genetics and epigenetics and longevity, human potential, biohacking, health optimization. And I've been doing this stuff for over 20 years, right? And so I wrote my book last year, Codes of Longevity. Oh, wow. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I do big online virtual events. So season 2 of the Longevity Summit's coming out. And I've got another book that's going to come out this year. I got a TED Talk that's going to come out this year, but everything. Wow. And I'm bringing out an entire new system of kind of hacking your own limitless potential called Thrive Intelligence. And while it's like deep stuff, it's also super simple and accessible. And so, I'm just here to support humanity on any and all levels to increase our expression of thriving at every age and every stage. So my life is, I run retreats. I've got a big retreat coming. I'm taking people to Tulum, Mexico in the fall. It's going to be a 5-day immersion, like radical transformation. I do big transformation stuff for people, right? I've got programs. I've got books. I've got one-on-one stuff I do working with people. I have an amazing husband. He's a photographer. He does all sorts of cool stuff. We get to go to, do cool things with him. I have a 14-year-old who I think is going on 24 any day. He's an amazing human. But the teenage years are a whole new dimension.
Yep.
Kind of like stepping into wrestling for the first time. It's like, what just happened? What happened to yesterday? Because this is a whole new today, right?
Oh yeah. I survived it, but it wasn't easy. Lots of vodka.
Oh my gosh, I'm a wine drinker, so some red wine. Yeah, there you go. Lots of good glasses of red.
Does he watch wrestling? Is he a wrestling fan?
He is not, actually, and it's really kind of funny to him, right? Like some of his friends are, and they'll be like, I still have a little street cred, I guess, for some of the people, and they're like, oh, your mom was in wrestling. Oh my gosh. But they want to know if I know like all the big names of today, which I don't work with them, right? I don't know them personally. So then it's kind of like a buzzkill. They're like, oh. So I think he's just like, I don't talk about that stuff. My mom's just my mom. She's like, not that.
Well, it sounds like you're doing great, and I got to go look at the website now. It sounds like you're doing great stuff, and I'm so happy for your success, and honored that you give us some time and everything I've wanted to say about my experience in diving in the wrestling business and getting quote unquote famous, because I wasn't famous, but whatever that is that we were. Everything that I always wanted to say about it, you just put into like beautiful words. So I'm going to copy you now, and I'll give you credit and promote your brand. So thank you. And hopefully, we'll be at a convention somewhere, and we could buy a glass of wine.
Oh man, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Yeah.
And you asked questions today, things that I haven't got to talk about before. So this is great. There's a lot of firsts here. So that way I'm sure the fans will be able to get some new insights. And just thank you to everybody. Like, I truly have such appreciation for the dedication throughout the history. Throughout the history of this sport, of this industry. And I really am I am humbled and honored to have been even just a small piece of that history for those short few years. So huge love and gratitude from my heart to everybody listening and watching. And hopefully we'll see each other sometime in the future.
All right. Best to you. Awesome stuff. Spice, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.